Yeah, so we'll get started. So again, yesterday we have been learning about why API automation when we have UA automation, and we have finalized that API automation should be definitely there because it's very easy to develop. It gives you faster results. There is not much of complexity involved, and it is very robust. So it's not having a lot of flakiness like your UA automation tools. So is API automation alone is efficient? No, it has to be always supported with UA automation as much as possible. If you have time, definitely do the UA automation. So it's gonna give you some fruitful results. Okay, good.
Ahmad, one question over here.
Yes, Abhishek.
At end of the day, like we will be doing the UI automation, right? So once, let's say if UI automation is completed, don't we need to do the API thing, testing APIs?
Yeah, you can. You should do, because there are certain cases that you cannot do with UA automation, right? Maybe some scenarios or flows that are very longer, okay, or that are not automatable using UA automation tools. It involves some maybe some captcha, some OTP related stuff, or email related stuff. Okay, these are all things that are quite easy to automate with the help of APIs, right? So in case, let's assume that maybe after submitting an order, you get an email notification. So doing the email notification with the help of UA automation is really tricky, right? Rather, what you can do, if it is a Gmail, you can use Gmail APIs to fetch the content from your inbox and then check whether the email is there. So it's more easy. Or you can also use API testing to do the test data setup, right? Maybe you want to inject some test data into your DB so that you can run your UI automation. Say in most of the cases, the problem with UI automation is we made a lot of test data in an Excel sheet or a JSON file or a YAML file. So avoid that. So in my framework, what I have done in Office framework, what I have done, there is no need of maintaining a test data. All the test data will be created on the fly for the UA automation using the API automation. Okay, so I'll hit certain APIs, I'll generate some data, I will use those data in my test cases so that my tests are really robust, so they don't fail just because test data issue, or I couldn't read from test data file, right? So this is some of the advantage that you get with API automation. Okay, and most importantly, a lot of tools. Let's take an example from Elasticsearch, Logstash, Kibana. If you want to operate on them, right? If you have watched my CLTM automation framework, what I would done, you can send REST API calls to the Elasticsearch Logstash. So there are almost all the systems that expose API to interact with, but not their UA. So if you have knowledge about API and API automation, it will be really helpful to you.
Thanks for clearing it down.
Sorry. Okay, so this is what we have seen yesterday, and the next one is we understood what is the difference between API and web service. To summarize, web service interact over HTTP protocol, whereas the API doesn't. Very simple. And we also learned about what is monolithic, what is microservices, and what are the advantages that we can get using microservices. Okay, good. So now, what is web services? How these guys interact? Okay, so there are three ways. Okay, so first among them is SOAP, and the second one is REST. Third one is XML RPC. We are not going to see about XML RPCs because it almost got extinct, like dinosaurs. They are not using it much. REST, this is what we're going to focus more now. SOAP, we will get started with SOAP when we started to learn about SOAP UI. Okay, so I'm not going to confuse you again with SOAP and REST for now. Just understand that we're going to focus now only for REST. Later point of time, we're going to learn about SOAP, and this is not part of this course itself. Okay, good. Now, what is REST? Right, a lot of questions arises. What is REST? What is this representational state transfer? We don't understand all these things. It's very simple, guys. Okay, let's assume let's take a simple example. Okay, you have yeah, SOAP is a web service, SOAP is a protocol, SOAP UI is a tool. Okay, so SOAP UI is same like your Postman. It's a web service client. Okay, SOAP is a protocol itself. Okay, so we'll learn about that in detail. Don't worry about it. Okay, good. So let's assume you want to draft some information, that you have some information. Maybe in the example that we seen yesterday, make my trip needs some information about the flights. Okay, now Indigo has to supply those flight details back to the client who is your make my trip. They cannot directly pass the object itself. Let's say your Indigo is developed, in Java. Okay, maybe all the flight details they have stored in some object. Okay, they cannot directly transfer that object. Okay, so they need some kind of representation to send it across. Okay, JSON or XML are basically a way to wrap a lot of information into a small amount of space. Okay, so we are not transferring the object itself, because the client and the server may use different programming languages. Okay, so they don't understand. Suppose in Java and Selenium, we are directly using the libraries from Selenium. Okay, with using some Java code. Okay, we are calling those methods, we are creating objects, we are calling those methods. Why we can able to do it? Because they both are built in same language. But in case, okay, in terms of REST, web services, we are not sure, what is the language that make my trip uses. Okay, so what we are doing, we are transferring the we are not actually transferring the object itself, we are transferring the representational state of that object. Okay, Amuda, still I'm confused. Okay, let's say, take an example. We have Olympics being conducted now. Okay, we sent some crew from India, right? Who are they are a representation from India, right? The same way, you don't transfer the object itself, rather wrap all those information of that object into an XML or an JSON file like this. Okay, and then transfer it. Okay, so now everyone can understand this employee detail. His first name is Jonathan, last name is Freeman, his login count, is he a writer, is he is working with multiple companies, does he have pets? Yes, he has only one pet, it's of name Lily and type Raccoon. Now whoever the client is, they pass this information, convert into their languages. Okay, if they are using JavaScript, they convert it to JavaScript object, and then they play around with that. Okay, so to finalize, we can term REST means, okay, a representational state transfer. Okay, which means we are not sending the object, we are sending the representational, okay, state of that object at that particular time. Okay, why at that particular time? Because today you call this request, client is requesting some information, server returns you this information. Next day, this guy, quit the job in info world. So what happens? This server will return only the works with, will only return span tree technology group. So this particular representation state of that object keeps changing. Okay, so we normally call it as represent state at that particular time. Okay, I see one more message. Sound is not coming to me. Okay, maybe you need to check your Anuj, your mic is not connected. I could see here. Maybe use a different headphones or earphones, or if you are using phones, you can also join the Zoom meeting from your phone, so that it has your inbuilt mic and stuff. Okay, I could see your maybe somebody can type it. He cannot listen to what I'm speaking. Somebody can message Anuj. Okay, that he needs to check his mic. Thank you. Okay, so now let's understand how we can draft this information. Okay, good. So let's take an example. I go to some JSON formatter. Now I want to construct a details of a student. Okay, let's say this particular student name. Okay, guys, anything that is within the curly braces is called as JSON object. Okay, some rules, very important rules, some rules here. Okay, anything that is between these two are called as JSON object. There are only three things in JSON. Okay, not much. Don't worry. Anything that is between curly braces is called as JSON array. Apart from that, you have key value pairs. Key value pairs. If you know these three rules, okay, that's it. You can understand what is JSON, how to construct a JSON. For all these things will be very easy. Good. So now I want to construct the student information. Okay, there is a student object. I want to convert that student object into a representational state. That is our JSON file. Okay, let's do it. So first name. Okay, this student is having a first name. Let's say it's Amol. Okay. Good. Now, if you notice, this is your key and this is your value. Okay, all the keys will be of type string. Okay, that is one important rule. Key is always string. Okay, that is another rule. Then value can be a string. Okay, here the value is string. Let's take another example, another value. This guy's ID number is, let's take 35. His ID is 35. Okay, good. Now, if there are two key value pairs, okay, then you need to separate them with the comma. Okay, now if you notice, the key is here a string, the value is string. Here the key is string, the value is number. Okay, so the value can be string or number or basically your integer. Okay, it can be integer. Okay, good. And what else? And let's say he also loves coffee. Okay, loves coffee. This is true. This is a boolean, right? So your key is string, the value is boolean. Okay, so value can also be boolean, just true or false. Okay, what else? He has attained certain marks in his examinations, maybe the annual examinations. So we can also have key as marks. Okay, if it is total marks out of 500, we can directly tell like total marks and 450. So he secured 450 marks out of 500. Okay, again you need to separate all of this by comma. Okay, each key value pair should be separated by comma. Now I want to list the individual marks. Okay, excuse me guys. Okay, so individual marks, maybe I can create marks. Okay, now this value is also another JSON object. Okay, if you notice, key is string, the value is again a JSON object. Okay, now let's assume I have Tamil and the marks that I secured is 90, and I also have English and the marks that I secured is let's assume 95, and at the end maybe we'll stick with max. Max I got 99. Okay, good. Now if you notice, the key is string, but the value is not string or integer or boolean. It's another JSON object. So the value can be string, number, boolean. At the end, it can be also JSON object. Okay, and then I am entering another comma because I want to add more information. So last key that I have is maybe my girlfriend names. Okay, since I have multiple girlfriends, so let's give the names like A, B, C, D, F, G, H, I. Okay, good. So you can like write like this, right? So this, if you notice, the key is string, but the value is a JSON array of string type. Okay, so the value can be also JSON array. Okay, this JSON array can have numbers or boolean or it can, this JSON array can also have JSON object. Okay, in each index. Imagine if you are from Java background, then you can easily understand this is similar to your hash map, key value pairs. Okay, and here the key itself is a marks, but the value is another hash map. It has a lot of key value pairs in it. Okay, and then you have girlfriend names, that's of JSON array. In each of the index, this is a 0th index, you have ABC. In the first index you have DEF. In the In the third index, you have, second index, you have GHI. I see one more. Null or blank. Yeah, it can be blank string. Yes, it can also be null. Yes, you are correct. So it can also be null. Maybe null is, again, we will see about the null later, but for now just understand you can have string, numbers, JSON array, JSON object, and you can also have null. Okay, maybe I don't have any good example to say null here, but yeah, you can also have value as null. Okay, but yeah, so you can also have that. Now you can also check whether the whatever the code you have written is correct. Okay, so if you miss something, okay, if you don't give a comma here, it is telling, hey, you need to add a comma here. Okay, we are expecting something here. Okay, so always separate them with the help of comma. Okay, each key value pass should be separated by comma. Good. I hope you can understand what I'm saying, right? So we have certain information about a student, so we have to construct a JSON file out of it, because that is the representative state of that particular student. So we need to transfer this information. Now, if we transfer this information, the client can receive this, parse these responses, and then get the value whatever they want. Okay. I'm spending more time in this because it's very important to understand how to construct a JSON, what are the different rules that we see in this JSON, and what is a JSON object, what is a JSON array. And it is not necessarily that you have JSON object at the root. Okay, this is a bigger one, right? This is a bigger one. It's not that you have to always have curly braces here. You can also have list of student. Okay, maybe you have another student. Let's assume you can also have like this. This guy is maybe I'm not changing anything else, but yeah. Okay, now I have list of students. First student is Amudan, second student is Amudan 1. So I have list of student. Okay, so if I validate whether it is, yeah, now I have list of students. So first student is this information, second student is this information. Okay, good. So you can also have JSON array at the root level, and then this JSON array is having two index. The first index is one student object, second index is another student object. Guys, any doubts so far before we move further? Guys, this is very important.
Amuntan, can we have any values before this? Let's say there is a JSON array,
okay,
which has two values. Other than that, can we have any like inside this any other JSON object?
Sorry, Abhishek, I missed you completely. Sorry, what? Can you come again?
Yeah, let's say like this is a JSON array which has two JSON object, right?
Yeah.
So let's say other than this, can we have any different JSON object in this, like student detail, like other than the student detail?
Yeah, no. See, the thing is, you can have, but it won't throw any errors. Okay, even if you store an employee details, you can store some employee details into JSON array. But the thing is, why would you do that? Because the client will request you in let's take an example from Make My Trip. Okay, I don't know, this is not getting out. Let's take an example from Make My Trip. Okay, though you can store different object into that particular JSON array. Let's say I'm searching for this flight. So what happens is it requests all the flight details. Okay, so you need flight array. Okay, that only have all the details about the flight. Why the server should return you something else? Correct. Yes. So it is always, see, you store something in an array because they are all similar. Okay, so you store something into a JSON array, which means they all should be similar. Okay, you can have it different, but why we should have it like that? Okay, when I request for this flights, it gonna give me an array that is having all the flight details. Okay, so each index in that particular array will have flight 1, flight 2, flight 3, flight 4 details. Okay, correct?
Yes.
So that's what technically you can have. It doesn't matter, but no one will have like that. Okay, good. Now we have understood this, and let's also see the chat.
So one question is, these things have to be created manually, is it, or these JSON creation?
You don't have to create it manually first, but you need to understand, right, how this works.
Okay, I'm just asking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I'm just giving you an example. If you have an information like that, how will you construct a JSON? Correct?
Okay. Yeah.
This will be really helpful because we might need it. Okay. Let's take an example. Okay. I am giving you an assignment. Can you guys do this? You need to construct a JSON for an employee whose first name is ABCD, last name is EFGH, and he is having two addresses. One is XYZ Street, Chennai. Second one is ABCD Street, Bangalore. And he's also a contractor and not a permanent employee. Okay. I want you guys to try, or maybe I can, do it here. Hey, why this one is not going up? I don't know. It's okay. So let's. I have my So let's remove this. Let's do this assignment. Okay. Does anyone want to volunteer? How you have to do this? So you need to construct the JSON for an employee whose first name is this, last name is this, and then they have two addresses. And then he's also a contractor, not a permanent employee. Very simple piece of information. You need to construct a JSON so that we can transfer it around.
Yeah, we can start with the JSON object.
Okay. Yeah.
Then we can give the name.
Okay.
Like employee's first name is ABCD, like the double colon first name.
Okay.
Then the name.
Okay.
Then comma.
Okay, comma.
Then the last name is last name.
I'll also use the last name. Okay.
Then again comma.
Okay, again comma.
Then address we need to give.
Okay.
Which will be in the form of JSON array.
Okay.
As we need to store two addresses.
Very good.
So we need to open the braces. So yeah, then we need let's say address one or address. Like XYZ Street.
Okay.
The first one is.
So there are two things. Okay. Here the question is not clear. So someone can assume they can write like XYZ Street. Sorry guys. XYZ Street, comma, Chennai, and then comma, and then some other value. Okay, some other address. But what I tried to do here is I want to have list of addresses. So I would suggest we keep it like this, and then street name, street maybe XYZ, and then city, okay, Chennai. Okay, and I also have one more thing. Okay, let's copy this. Okay, insert a comma between them. Then yeah, and then here ABC, and then it's Bangalore. Okay. Okay, good. So we have done this. After that, what we have? So we have done with this, and he is a contractor, not a permanent employee. What we will use here?
Is contractor true or false? We can give Boolean value. So.
Yeah, good. So that's the reason I told he is not a permanent employee, which means he is either contractor or a permanent employee. So there is only, either this or that. So we can use a Boolean here. So I separate them with a comma, and then is contractor true. So if you notice, we have also constructed the JSON for this. So this is very, very simple, right? So this is very important. So I think you guys have understood this very well. If someone didn't understood, please let me know.
Amutan, can we have JSON array inside a JSON array?
Yeah, you can have. Everything is possible. But the thing is, technically it is possible, but we will not have a use case like that. See, addresses which means you're going to hold a lot of addresses, right? In certain cases, there is no way that you have a list of addresses in addresses, right? Technically speaking, you won't have that scenario. Okay, maybe in a JSON object, you may have, JSON array, or in a JSON array, you can have JSON objects. That's a pretty common use case. You will not see that because they don't send it. Okay. Suppose in our case, we have list of flight array, right? Flight array, each index has a detail about a particular flight. Okay. So most probably that won't happen, but technically you can have it. Okay. Good. So we have done with, arriving the JSON. The same way you can use it for XML. Okay. So instead of JSON, can I write in Java? No. Why? Because see, whatever the code that we have written here, okay, you can in Java you can create an employee class, you can create parameters like this, you can store those information. But the thing is, it's not necessary that the client, okay, imagine you are a server. It is not necessary that the client understands Java. Okay, so we are converting into a form that is understandable by all programming languages. That's why JSON is very powerful. You can also use XML, that doesn't matter. Okay, same information you can wrap inside an XML. Okay, that's what they have done here. Okay, employee details they have wrapped inside an XML. Okay, so the rest can communicate either using a JSON or an XML. Okay, it is not that rest means always JSON. Okay, so it's based on the use case, but most people prefer JSON. Okay, good. Now we understood what is REST, what are the different modes in REST, and how to construct a JSON if there is an information about an object. Okay. Now there is one important information that we need to understand about REST, that is statelessness. This is a very important feature that we need to understand before heading further. Okay. Now let's open a pane. Client, and I also have server. Okay. So the thing what we are going to learn now is REST APIs are stateless. Okay. What is the stateless? Anyone can imagine what is stateless? Any idea about what is stateless? Anyone? Guys, even if it is wrong, that's okay. No problem. Okay, no problem. So we learned. So every time the client sends a request, okay, normally we client sends a request to the server understand the information and return back the response. Correct? Very simple. In our case, it's make my trip requested for flight details. Okay, maybe I need flight details. This guy returned the flight details back. Okay, someone is don't have any form like object comma array. No. There is no object comma array and all. We don't have that. Okay. Anyways, I didn't understand that question correctly. So we'll see that later. Maybe once after the session is over, you can ask your doubt. Okay. Good. So we are requesting some information. We are getting the response back. Right. So what is stateless? Stateless means server will not store any information about this client. Okay. Server will not store any info about the client. Okay, it doesn't store anything. Okay, so the every request the client send should have all the information. The client should not assume that server would have stored this information. Server would have stored that this information. Server would have already known that that I've sent the last request about needing a flight details. So this time also I'll send the last, request about flight details. No, there is no storage or state that is maintained in server side. They don't know. Even if it is MMT, okay, they will understand, okay, this guy needs flight information, they will give the flight information. Even if it is another one, Yatra. So for Yatra also, they will not maintain any state. Okay. Whatever the request that you send to me, it needs to have all the information. Even if you are sending 1,000 API calls, all those 1,000 API calls should be independent. They server will not store any of these information with it. Why it is not storing it? Okay. That's a very important question. Yesterday we have seen that in terms of server, that you can have multiple servers, right? If to compensate for the loads, extra loads, you can have multiple servers. Okay. And then you can have a load balancer in, okay, you have a load balancer. Let's say this is your load balancers, and you have server 1, server 2, server 3. Yesterday we have understood about what is horizontal scaling. So imagine that you have a horizontal scaling, and now you have 3 servers. Okay, this load balancer's job is to separate the load to the server 1, server 2, server 3. Now, why we are not storing any information? This is one of the important criteria of using REST. REST by default, it should not store any information in the server side. Why is that? Because we don't know. Let's say first time the make my trip calls the Indigo server, the server 1 from the Indigo replied back. Okay, so the server 1 replied back. Okay, because that is free, it is available to take APIs, and then it responded. Suppose imagine this information is stored in S1. The second time, the same request coming from MMT, the load balancer has to do some job of reminding, it has to remember last time where I sent this make my trip request. Okay, I have sent it to S1. Okay, then there is some effort that is needed from the load balancer side. This involves a lot of coding, and this becomes very difficult. Second, let's assume that they have not done this, rather they are synchronizing all the things. Okay, the first time that the request coming from make my trip, load balancer sees S1 is free, sends the information to S1. Now the second time it is coming, it sends the request to S2. Okay, now there has to be some synchronization logic. Whatever the information that S1 supplied has to be informed to S2 and S3. So again, there is some synchronous logic involved. Again, guys, there is important terms that you need to understand. Async. Okay, there is asynchronous calls and synchronous calls. Synchronous calls are something that you get a request, you send the response back. Okay. Suppose client needs to send, client is sending some information to server is responding back. Then client will wait for the server information. Okay. In case of asynchronous, you don't wait for it. You just send it. That's it. Okay. So that is asynchronous. So in the cases, if you are storing some information about the client and server, we need to do a lot of synchronization. So synchronization makes the process slow. Okay. And this is very complex. Okay. So that's why we are speaking about stateless. Every request has to be independent. So server will not store any information from the client. So that's a very important thing. Okay. I hope I made some sense. Okay. If you have still doubts, you can ask me. Otherwise, you can understand this. Statelessness help in scaling the APIs to millions of concurrent users by deploying to multiple servers. Yeah, we understood about what is horizontal scaling, what is multiple servers, because any server can handle any request. There is no session related dependency. You don't have to maintain a session. Okay, you don't have to remember which server served the last request. We don't have to do that. Being stateless makes REST API less complex, because all the server side dependency or synchronization logic is not there. You don't have to do that. You don't have a lot of work. Okay. A stateless API is easy to cache. specific software can decide whether or not to cache the result of an HTTP request by looking at that one request. What is this cache? Anyone knows what is a cache? Is anyone knows what is a cache? Yes, you are correct, Dureraj. Server does not store any client info. That is the ultimate goal. Each request you need to send all the information. Okay. Anyone know what is a cache? Yes. All microservices are stateless. Okay, they don't maintain any state between them. All the RESTful APIs, whatever the APIs that what Bhavana also stores data. Okay, you are answering for cache. Okay, no. Anyone, you can unmute yourself and then you can answer. I'm not going to restrict people from unmuting their mics. Data stores for future, that is cache, storing some info. Okay. Let's go to the same example. Okay.
Among like if you're frequently using some data,
Yeah,
that is getting stored in cache, so that need not to be like to fetch away from the DB.
not from the DB itself. Yeah, from the server. Yes, exactly. So let's say this MMT is making a lot of flight details calls. Okay. Maybe in a day they are they request for like 15,000 times. Okay, because there may be n number of users who is hitting the make my trip. Every time it will send a request to the server. If you notice, this is very common data, right? Fetching the information about the flights is very common data. So what happens if that is in the flight case, it is dynamic, so there is no other go. It has to go and serve it from the server. You cannot cache it. You cannot cache some information and store send some static data. Okay, every time they request, you cannot send the same data. Okay, you need to check whether the flight is there, whether the flight haven't departed, whether the flight is having vacancies to book. So all these things you need to validate. So in this case, you cannot cache it. But imagine there is a movie that released, in Tamil, Sarpata Paramare, in Hindi, you have Tufan, both are boxing related films. Okay. Now there are a lot of people uh, hitting Amazon Prime. Okay. And then they are trying to watch that movie. What happens? There are more loads coming from India. So this entire Amazon Prime is hosted in AWS, and then they have a lot of microservices involved, all those stuff. But imagine you are getting a lot of requests for these two movies. So what they will do, they'll have cache locations. Okay, they will have one cache locations in Mumbai, they have one in Chennai, something like that. Okay, and then they will serve it from that particular cache. So instead of serving it from the server, okay, they will serve it from the cache. Okay, if somebody needs the information, okay, it comes to the request will be delegated to the cache and it will be returned from the cache itself. Okay, so the server is now free from a lot of loads. Okay, server is now free to do other things. It can serve lot other requests. Okay, so that's the use of cache. If there is a lot of demand, to reduce the latency, which means let's say you want to access something from some video in US is very popular now. Everyone from India is watching that. So what they do, they will store that video in a cache location near to India, so that they don't have to be served from the US. So they can avoid that latency effects. Okay, so that's the use of cache. Cache is something that instead of server, the information will be sent from the cache. That's very simple. Okay, but server decides which request needs to be cached and which request needs not to be cached. For in case the flight details cannot be cached at any time, because every time it has to send a new dynamic response, right? That's why we cannot cache that information. Good. So the server also never lose track of where each client is in application, because client will send all the necessary information in each of these requests. Okay, that's a very important point. Okay, that's the statelessness. People might ask you in an interview, very important. Please do that. Now let's come to this assignment that I have given yesterday. Anyone has worked on this particular assignment? Best example for microservices. Anyone has have time to?
A little bit I read about the GitHub, like migrated from like
Okay.
monolithic to microservices.
Okay. Who else? Who else? That was it. Okay. Let me ask you guys a simple question. Okay. How many deployments does Amazon does in a day? How many deployments that Amazon website does in a single day? Let's assume Amazon.in. Okay, only the Indian website. Guys can quote any numbers. Do you think how many deployments they do in a day? Come on, guys, just random guess. Okay, every minute. Okay, 15 deployments. Okay, 150. Okay. So basically, every 13 to 15 minutes, I don't know how to calculate, but basically they are doing 23,000, more than 23,000 deployments in a normal actual day. I'm not including the prime days, the very important sale days and all. Very common day, they are doing 23,000 deployments across their microservices. How many microservices they are having? Do you guys know? They have more than 10,000 microservices. Okay, this Amazon has a little concept like two pizza team. Do you guys know what is a two pizza team? They have something called as two pizza. Do you guys know what is that? So, okay, somebody is replying. No. Okay, two pizza team means they should not have a team that can feed people more than two pizza. Like let's say there are 4 people. Okay, so maybe the maximum thing they can eat is 2 pizza. Okay, so you need to have very small teams. Okay, so that they work on different microservices. They work in silos, but at the end of the day they have effective communication between the teams, and then they deliver things. Okay, so that's what the two pizza concept is. They will not have a bigger team. Okay, they will have very smaller teams that can only fed by two pizzas. Okay, don't tell me that I eat no, people like me eat two pizza myself. So that's a different case. Okay, but this is their two pizza concept. So they are doing almost 23,000, more than 23,000 deployments a day in a very normal day, and then they have more than 10,000 microservices. Okay, in a single website. Imagine the complexities involved. They could all do it because they adopted microservices. There are a lot of jobs, for microservices. Even if you understand manual testing of microservices, even if you do just API testing, that's you have a lot of jobs. If you automate it, you have plenty of jobs. So please learn about that. And I have 2 tasks for you for today. Okay, one is download the Postman. So just go to Postman, download for Windows. I'm using Windows. If you're using any other operating system, please do that. So click on this, download the app. A very, very simple exe file. Just double click it, and then you get your Postman installed. Okay. Yeah, Vaiti. Databases also will have a lot of copies. Okay. Good. So this is from where you can download the Postman app. Just install it, and then you can once you install it, will show you a sign up screen. Just sign up with your account. I have signed up with my account. Let's say I have used my email ID to sign up, and then I have logged in with my email ID. And then the second one is SOAP UI. So this is your 5.6 is the latest version as of today. So you can download this. Okay, based upon your operating system, just download this and then install it. Very, very simple process. Please do that. Okay. Okay, I think we are done for the day. Maybe we will connect again on Friday, and then we'll continue with the topics. We are going to learn about Postman first. Okay, we're going to do a lot of things with Postman. We're going to create test cases. We're going to do marking of the APIs. We're going to set up monitoring of the APIs. A lot of things. Okay, we are going to build a documentation. There are a lot of things that you can use with Postman, and most importantly, you don't need a simple automation knowledge. You don't need even a single 1% of automation knowledge. Everything is very easily done. Okay, Postman is a very cool tool. So if you master the Postman, again, you can do a lot of things with Postman. Okay, it can do a lot of magic for you. Good, guys. So if there is any other doubts, I can take it today. Otherwise, we will connect tomorrow. Sorry, not tomorrow, on Friday, and we'll learn about the Postman in detail. Okay.
One small doubt that asynchronous and synchronous that you were mentioning.
Yeah.
Can you explain that?
Yeah. Okay. Asynchronous. Okay. Very simple, guys. Okay. Don't take an example from the REST API call itself. Okay. If you take an example from MMT, this is always synchronous because it has to send the information until unless the server gives you back the information. You have to wait for it. So this is a synchronous call. Always this is synchronous call. Let's assume sometimes. Okay. Let's take an example that you are ordering something from Amazon. Okay. You are ordering, let's say, phone from an Amazon. Okay, this is your UI. Okay, this is the Amazon UI. And this is your Amazon DB backend. It transfers through backend and then to DB, but for now assume that this is your DB, and then it is directly sending the information to the DB. Okay, once you place the order, it will tell, okay, this guy has placed a phone, and then it will reach the DB. Does this Amazon UI need some information back? Okay, maybe by default it can just send, okay, your order is successful. We'll send you more details about that. Okay, that's it. Okay, because if there is some problem in DB, okay, you cannot tell directly tell, okay, there is some problem in my DB. We have to wait for another 20 to 30 minutes to get your details. No, we don't. First, it will be put into a queue. There is a lot of understanding. If you know the system designs, there will be normally queues. Okay, there will be normally queues. Okay, so whatever the information that order that you placed from Amazon UI, it will go to the queue, and then some processor, some microservice will process information from this queue and then put it into the DB. So by default, Amazon UI, let's assume that will give you a static data that your order has been placed successfully. Then it will process one by one. This queue will be processed one by one from the microservices, and then it will reach the DB. Okay, so in this case, you don't need the information back. Okay, every time someone is placing an order, it will go to the queue. Okay, by default, it will send the response like, yeah, your order is successful. Okay, in these cases, these kind of calls can be asynchronous. Okay, because asynchronous are very fast. You don't have to wait for them. Okay, rather you directly tell, okay, it's done. I'll make sure that we'll take care of this later. Okay, so that's something called as asynchronous. Okay.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Got it.
Yes, synchronized or executed in sequence. Asynchronized or random doesn't execute sequentially. Can be, but most importantly, synchronous are something that wait for the server's response. That's very important. Asynchronous doesn't wait for someone's response. Okay. Is online banking synchronous or asynchronous? What do you mean by online banking? They should be synchronous because they can be asynchronous sometimes. Let's say you are doing some GPay transaction. Sometimes it is telling, okay, please wait for 2 minutes, 5 minutes. Okay, we are not sure whether your order has been passed or not. Okay, so it depends. We cannot directly tell them, okay, whether it is synchronous or asynchronous. You need to know the exact use cases to tell it. But for now, our understanding, there is only two things. One is asynchronous, one is synchronous. If you know what is that, that's okay. Okay, good. And what else? Any other doubts apart from that? Okay, if there are no more doubts, I'll see you guys on Friday. You guys have a very good day. Please practice it. If you have any doubts, please ping me. Okay, we'll connect tomorrow at 7 a.m. Okay, and then we'll try to answer all your doubts. Okay, if you have any doubts, no problem. Okay, but practice how to construct a JSON from a data. Yes, it is mandatory to learn, Karthik. because we're going to work a lot with JSON. So you should be in a position to construct the JSON based on that. Yeah. So it's better to learn it. Okay. Yes. Very good example. Vaidyanathan. Yeah. Phone call is synchronous. Yeah. We need to, you cannot, but some people will speak asynchronously. They will keep speaking. They will not listen to you. That's also happens. But yeah, synchronous phone call is a synchronous. Asynchronous is email. Yeah. Good. But that's okay. And we'll connect on Friday. You guys have a very good day. Rest of the day. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.